This is it now, your personal development library. You've just got to be a good student and gather the material and the books as you go along. I started my library. Some of you have heard those earlier seminars and cassettes. When I was 25 years old, I got one of the best. Even on my farm now, I've built a library for 2,000 books on the farm in between all the rest of the stuff we do. But even on the farm, I got to have a library. I got to be surrounded by the books. You know, the books that made me healthy and the books that made me wealthy and the books that changed my life and the books that refined my philosophy. So you got to work on your personal development library. Just start, and then just keep adding to it. Just start and keep adding. I don't have a list. You know, in one of my other seminars, I recommend 3 books. One is the Bible. Second is a book called Think and Grow Rich. Third is The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clayson. And I might add one more here called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. You just start, and then you just do your own research. Here's where you find a lot of good books, in the used bookstores. I spend a lot of time in the used bookstores, right? Searching for stuff that, you know, is not that easy to find. But building a personal development library. And you need the full range now of your library. Here's number 1, history. Got to be a student of history so we can learn from the past. Here's a good book called Lessons of History by Durant. The Durants wrote, 11, 12 volumes on civilization. Take a speed reading course, you can get through those. And they are very well written. The Durants, they're some of the best writings. This little book, Lessons of History, is a little overview of history. It's only 100 pages, but it is some of the best written 100 pages you'll ever find. You may not even agree with their premise, but you've got to agree that it's incredibly well written. Lessons of History by Durant. Here's a good book called How to Read a Book. How to Read a Book by Adler. Mortimer Adler, chief editor of the New Encyclopedia Britannica. He's written several books, The 6 Great Ideas, Aristotle Made Simple, and some more. But the one good book he's written is called How to Read a Book. How to Read a Book. It's good. It's a tough book to get through. You have to work at it. But what else is new? If you read 3 or 4 pages and say, oh, this is too hard. I mean, how'd you get through school? I mean, you try to tie your shoestrings one time and say, this ain't going to work for me. He said, no, you can't. You can't go through life with your shoestrings untied. You got to stay at it, what? Until you can do it. So get through some of this stuff. Some of the good stuff's on page 300. And if you flake out too soon, don't get to page 300, see, then you lack a lot in your personal education. So just laboriously, regularly, laboriously, right? Buy and study and practice and teach good ideas.
You can only have 2 things in life, reasons or results. Notice, reasons don't count. Folks will always point out reasons on why they're not living their dream, on why they're not manifesting their greatness. They will always be able to point those things out, but none of those things count. The only thing that counts are results. And results don't lie, ladies and gentlemen. They tell it all. Judge a tree by the fruit that it bears, not the ones that it might talk about, not the ones that it might wish for or think about or affirm about, but the fruit that it actually bears. So let us look. I think that all of us are committed. But I think that some of us are producing results in our lives that level of commitment brings that we particularly don't like or find distasteful. I don't think that as a participant in life, you cannot be committed. You're either committed to mediocrity or you're committed to greatness. You're either committed to being productive or you're committed to being non-productive. You're committed to being happy or you're committed to being unhappy.
People go through their lives without knowing what it is they want to do, what they want to accomplish. Be clear in your mind in what you intend to achieve. Know what you are going to do. That doesn't seem like too much to ask.
You got to affirm, I will persist until I succeed. You have to have persistence, you have to have patience and perseverance. It takes courage to come back again and again and again. Write this down. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy.
Life is difficult, and a resilient person is capable of standing up to things in the face of fear and moving forward voluntarily, convinced of their own competence and ability to prevail.
But not enough people are willing to build that mental, emotional toughness. And the moment they do, they'll persevere.
Very few people want to be alone anymore. They want to be around noise and people, and you can't think. Be alone, go to that dark space. In that dark space, shut life off for a little bit. Go to a dark place in your mind and figure out what you want to be. You don't know what you don't want, because you don't know what you want to be because you haven't spent time, real time with yourself. You have to face that in that dark room. In that dark room is who you are. But in that dark room is where you have to create another human being that walks out of that dark room to face who you are. That's the only way you're going to get over all those things. You have to create someone else. Not like you have two different personalities. It is you. But you have to find strength. You face yourself. You realize you want to be better. You realize you don't want to be this weak, insecure person in the world who has all these problems that we all have. We all have. Spend time with yourself. Trust me. And once you find that passion and that purpose, your goals, your purpose, everything will just start lining up. And then you'll find the courage to start that journey from that 20 to 100.
No matter what business you're looking at, always know your numbers. Number two, realize that we're not successful if that consumer does not come to us, whether they're eating in your restaurants, whether they're playing in your casino, and whether if you don't have a good product on that basketball court, the fans are not going to come and buy those tickets, the sponsors aren't going to come, and therefore you're not going to have the money to pay for those good players next year. You're not going to be able to pay Russell Westbrook and James Harden each $40 million a year. You've got to always remember, we're only as good as us taking care of that consumer. One of the things I teach everybody, and especially my kids, don't assume anything. People think if somebody walks in and gives you an answer that it's the right answer. And even when I tell somebody to do something, I don't assume they went and did it. I'll ask them a week later, did you do that I asked you to do? Because that was really important to me. Oh my gosh, I didn't do that. And I think that's the biggest mistake people make, is don't assume that everything's running right, don't assume anything.
Do you see parallels between the game that you play in business and sports? Is that why there is a passion for you on both sides?
100%. I operate by the 95-5 rule. 95% of everything we do in business, if we're doing anything, is right, so look for the 5%.
How do you find the 5%? This is so powerful, and reading it in the book, I was like, okay, here we go. So how do you spot the 5%? How do you know what 5% matters? How do you prioritize how you attack that 5%?
Okay, well, let me just say this, okay? I walked into this studio, okay? And I've done a lot of interviews, and as soon as I walk in, your people greet you, they introduce, this, you come up here, here's some snacks, there's even a camera light, so if they're doing your makeup up there, it's a perfect lighting. I could tell this guy has his act together. This guy, I'm having a hard time finding his 5% because they're doing everything right. And I'm not just saying that, but everything I'm saying is true. That you have somebody meet us outside, we're not walking around lost, so I hadn't found the 5% here. I'm sure before the show's over I will. But
it's there. It's there for sure. I think you're right. Everybody has.
But I judged you and your operation the second I walked in, and it's no different if I'm pulling up to a retail store or a hotel or a restaurant or whatever, and before I get to the front door, I'm pulling up in that parking lot. Is the parking lot in pretty good shape? Are there weeds out there? Are there cigarette butts in the parking lot? Are there lights burn out? The front door's got a bunch of smudges on it. I haven't even walked in yet, and I can tell you this isn't a crisp operation. I can tell you everything, how the operation's going to be inside before I ever walked in the front door. Because if they're not taking care of the outside, the inside's not going to be good. And that's the same parallel that I used for the basketball team. We had a great year again. We've won the most games we've ever won in a 2-year period in my first 2 years of ownership. But I sat down with the general manager and the head coach and my top basketball people and said, all right, we did 95% of everything right, but we didn't beat Golden State again. So what do we need to do? How do we improve that 5%? And we kicked it around, and that's when we decided that maybe there's an opportunity to be a little more athletic and getting a great transition player who can speed the game up and make us a better team like a Russell Westbrook. And so that was the 5% we were looking for. Changing out a few coaching positions, changing out a few other players. You're never going to be great if you don't look for the 5%.
New challenges require new skills. Even small steps can create big change. And I think that's so important what you're saying, Jay, because everybody always wants to do the big thing. And I'm starting Monday, I'm going to do I'm going to run 5 miles instead of let me just run a half a mile. Let me walk a half a mile. So let's talk about that. What are some of the small steps that we can take now?
Absolutely. And I've been there too, Oprah. I know what that feels like to be in that position. And I believe we always have two choices, to escape or to elevate. And escape gives us instant gratification, as we all know and have experienced. And elevating gives us this lasting greatness. We know that gratitude is powerful. It boosts our immune system. It brightens our mood. But what I really love about gratitude is not just feeling it, but expressing it. Send that voice note. Send that video, send that message. Taking that moment to express gratitude makes such a difference in our life right now, and such a difference to that person receiving it.
Before I open my eyes in the morning, you know, that phase where you just kind of like, oh, I'm still alive, I'm still here. The first thing I've trained myself to do is to say thank you for that, because gratitude literally changes your vibration. It doesn't just help you, it changes your vibration. Would you not agree?
Yeah, 100%. And what I love about it, and Oprah, I've heard you speak about this before, and you know, it's discussed broadly around how what really makes a difference with gratitude is when it's deeply heartfelt and it's really specific. And so we all know that then we can really think about how is this unique to me? That's what has such a great impact.